14.2 Introduction. Ankita is a young girl who has just joined a company which is of recent origin. Initially she liked the job, but gradually her workload increased. Seeing her work efficiency, her boss used to give her lots of work to her so that it would get done quicker and with efficiency. Initially she used to do it and did not complain as she was a new employee, but she was feeling stressed and her personal life started getting affected. She was not sure of what to do as she needed the job very much. The above example indicates the need for counseling. But how it is different from other situations which require counseling? Does the organization where Ankita is working has any role in counseling? Do the boss or the family members of Ankita need to be involved in counseling? 14.2.1 What is workplace counseling? To know in detail about the above, let us first see what is counseling. You have already learned this in Unit 1. The British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, BAPCH, has defined counselling as counselling and psychotherapy are umbrella terms that cover a range of talking therapies. They are delivered by trained practitioners who work with people over a short or long term to help them bring about effective change or enhance their well-being. Now if you have to define workplace counseling, what would be your response? Based on the above definition of counseling, you may say, workplace counseling can be counseling provided to people for their problems at their workplace. However, the matter of workplace counseling is not so simple and involves several aspects such as, who should provide the counseling services? A counselor trained in general counseling skills or a counselor trained specifically to deal with issues at workplace? Or can even a manager in the organization can serve as the counselor at the workplace? To whom should counseling be provided at workplace, i.e., who forms the clientele? Employers or the employees? Or both? Whether there should be an in-house counselor or a counselor sourced from outside the organization as a consultant? What kind of problems and issues should be addressed in counseling? Only workplace-related problems or problems related to the employer's and employees' life outside the workplace? What could be disclosed during counseling and what about the confidentiality? In other words, how much personal and organizational information the employers, employees, and counselors can disclose to each other? We can see from these questions that workplace counseling entails several issues which need to be included in its definition. Before we learn about the definitions of workplace counseling, let us be clear about the related terms. The term workplace counseling has three intertwined concepts, namely, work, workplace, and counseling. Let us see what each term means. Work. Work implies any activity undertaken by a human being with a goal to achieve a result, which can be tangible or intangible, positive or negative, for example, making a kitchen appliance, a software, a medicine, or a weapon. Work has been inseparable from humans ever since their very first step on this earth. Freud says that humans cannot exist without a civilization and civilization is not possible without work, hence one can see the contingency of human existence on work. The Freudian understanding of work can be elucidated with the help of an analogy of a harness and horses. Work is the harness that controls the horses of unconscious desires, wishes, impulses, and motivation which if left unchecked may endanger the existence of self as well as that of others. So, work protects us from ourselves as well as from others. While Freud underscored the importance of work for human existence, he also recognized the human's natural aversion to work. He wrote, "Men are not spontaneously fond of work. That is, most of us do not work out of choice but out of necessity. While necessity is usually financial necessity, even choice cannot be seen as a pure volition or will but a psychological necessity. Some of us may not be pulled by financial necessity but pushed by psychological necessity to work. Karl Marx has defined work as the alienation of people from their natural existence through the process of selling their labor to owners of production. Work forces humans to become inhuman as soon as they sell a part of their daily life to someone else for the benefit of the person who buys it. There are 4 aspects to the concept of alienated labor. Consists of 4 aspects, that is, the labor alienates a. nature from man, b. man from himself, makes man passive and brings about self-alienation, c. man from his own body, nature, his intellect and his human essence, and d. man from other men. Marx's ideas about alienation and deprecation of humans are similar to Freudian idea about loss of a part of a self due to membership of a group. As a group member, an individual must give up a part of him or herself, sometimes explicitly, for example, initiation ceremony, or implicitly, giving up questioning. As we have understood the importance of work to human existence, it will not be surprising to know that work provides us with an identity in the society. When asked about our introduction, most of us tend to respond in terms of the work that we do, such as, I am a professor, I am an engineer, I am a chef, I am a doctor. After knowing about our work, usually the next query is about our place of work, and this brings us to the next part of our discussion, the workplace. Workplace. A workplace may refer to a specific location or space where an individual works to produce capital for oneself and or for others. However, it has become difficult to define workplace as it has undergone drastic changes from pre-industrial revolution to the post-industrial revolution and the digital era of today. We can say that life has come to a full circle, i.e., before industrial revolution many people worked from home as in cottage industries, a portion of the house usually had a workshop. Industrialization witnessed a huge workforce working outside their homes, in factories, offices, roads etc. Post-industrialization, with more advanced technology emerged the era of multinational companies and outsourcing that reverted the workplace to home for many workers. The digital era now, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, has put the focus on working from home culture. Organization. Skin defined organization as the rational coordination of the activities of a number of people for the achievement of some common explicit purpose or goal, through division of labor and function, and through a hierarchy of authority and responsibility. In simple terms, a group of people working together for a common goal irrespective of the actual location / space of work and nature of work, forms an organization. Organization can be viewed in 2 ways. First, it is a cognitive and purposefully acting entity where we talk about hierarchies, logical and rational thinking, coordination, decision-making, power, explicit goals etc. It does not emphasize on people having social relationships, interactions, and emotional expressions. It reflects a rigid business approach and paints the organization as a heartless enterprise. Secondly, an organization is viewed as a living entity with an amalgamation of cognitions, emotions, and actions which determine the nature and culture of an organization. It is made up of living beings and hence the individual needs to be considered in totality. The contemporary approach recognizes the dynamic nature of individual-organization interaction and relationship which contributes to employee satisfaction and productivity as well as the growth of the organization. 14.2.2 Nature and culture of organizations. Organizations are dynamic entities. Different aspects characterize it which are described below: organizations and emotions. Emotions wield tremendous power over humans and at times may overpower our cognitions. Hence, emotional expressions in organizations are often controlled by people in authority positions who set criteria for acceptable expression of emotions. Employees unable to follow such criteria can be pathologized and stigmatized and can be identified by the organization as in need of counseling. Organizations as a system and culture. Organizations may function as systems within four perspectives: socio-technical system, an interaction of technical activities and social interactions. Both should complement each other, as technical advancement cannot be successfully applied without the positive and cooperative social interactions among the employees. Open system. An organization consists of living people and it also interacts with living people in the outside world. Hence, it is influenced by the external factors and influences the external factors in return. Boundaries exist between the internal and external worlds of the organization. Similarly, within the organization, boundaries exist among the various divisions, such as HR, accounts, production, etc. Permeable boundaries between the external and internal worlds of the organization as well as within the organization allow healthy interaction among the various divisions, thereby making the organization successful and amenable to work for the employees. However, rigid boundaries and closed groups make it difficult to work for employees, which in turn may lead to frustration and aggression among the employees, affecting their well-being. Political system. Since an organization is made up of different divisions and sections, it must allocate power to these different divisions in different magnitudes. The differential power allocation to people and divisions makes the politics among them inevitable. As Aristotle says, man by nature is a political animal. There may be mistrust, jealousy and running down each other's contributions and devaluing each other. Organizational culture. Feynman defines culture in terms of the feelings and the thoughts which characterize a particular organization. Culture can be pervasive within an organization as a whole, and different divisions or sections within the organization can also have a culture of their own which is unique to those divisions. Such culture can be explicitly defined in terms of the language used, logo, and organization's manifesto, for example, gender equality, or it can be implicit, such as vibes, minding one's own business, not encouraging employment of a specific gender, males/females, not giving importance to mental health, etc. Survival culture. Nowadays, in many cases, one is not employed for life but on a contractual basis, where renewal of the contract depends on the performance. Thus, to project oneself as competent and apt for the job or promotion, employees are constantly under pressure to please and abide by the superiors, as we saw in the example of Ankita given in the beginning of the unit. This leads to work pressure, long working hours, not taking sick leaves even when direly required, which usually has a negative effect on the employee's well-being. Thus, an employee's energies are spent on surviving rather than thriving in his/her job. Survival culture may also lead to corporate abuse and workplace bullying. Corporate abuse. Some organizations cross the limits of acceptable behavior with their employees to achieve their targets. They may follow the divide and rule policy by unduly favoring one employee over the other, thus promoting insecurity and jealousy among the employees. Rules may be illogical and twisted to be used against the employees, and to cut the costs, downsizing may be done so that one employee's workload is increased to double or more without any increase in the salary. Such working conditions may make the employee feel insulted, exploited, and abused. By the end of the day in the organization, the employee feels so drained out physically and emotionally that he is unable to contribute positively to their own personal life. Workplace bullying. People, especially in supervisory or managerial positions in the organization, may use their power and authority unfairly and harm their subordinates or colleagues physically and or psychologically. The reasons may be to secure one's own position in the organization, to exercise control, to settle scores with someone, to pull someone down, etc. Thriving culture. Fortunately, not all organizations promote survival culture. Some organizations promote thriving culture, where employees are encouraged and supported to develop their potential. The employees and employers work for the success of each other. In such organizations, success is measured not only in terms of financial gains and increased productivity of the organization but also in terms of employees' satisfaction and well-being. Thus we can conclude that a workplace or an organization is comprised of cognitions, emotions, and behaviors and can be said to have a personality like a human being. Personality is defined as having a unique pattern of thinking, feeling, and acting that helps an individual to adapt to his/her life situations. Just as an individual having stresses, challenges, and needs for achievement seek counseling or therapy to remediate problems and for personal growth, similarly organizations also have their unique problems, challenges and aspirations, and interact dynamically with those of the employees in the organization, and thus need counseling to address these issues. This indicates the emerging needs for workplace counseling. 14.2.3 Defining workplace counseling. According to Carroll and Walton, organization and counseling are two different worlds and need to come together and understand each other for workplace counseling. Orlans has delineated the differences between organization and counseling. Carroll and Walton have suggested that since the values of these two systems are different, both need to negotiate and discuss continuously to avoid clashes and to work meaningfully. The goal should be to understand, share, and integrate the values and concerns of each other. Definition. Workplace counseling refers to the ability to deal with issues that occur within an organization, such as conflict, stress-related absence, work-related trauma, and harassment/bullying. According to Dunn, workplace counseling does not imply treatment, but it involves sharing experiences and providing a set of attitudes or techniques by the counselor to individuals to help them cope with the problem/crisis. So, workplace counseling is a situation-specific and time-limited endeavor that is focused on resolution of a current problem. The British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy says that workplace counselor must have the knowledge of the organization, its culture, and the factors that may affect the well-being of its employees. Also, workplace counselor should neither give advice and action plans to employees, nor should they be judgmental or exploit the employees for their weaknesses, thereby harming the employee's career. Workplace counseling is any intervention in which the provision of counseling/psychotherapy is linked in some fashion to being an employee suffering from work-related psychological problems or where therapy has an impact on work functioning. Workplace counseling refers to counseling provided in the work setting, whether this is internal or external service provision, to help employees with any mental health issues that have arisen from, or are worsened by, work. Carroll gave a functional definition of workplace counseling, which refers to a three-way dynamic relationship between the organization, the employees, and the counselor. Thus, workplace counseling is different from other types of counseling as it is provided in the workplace setting. It focuses only on workplace issues or workplace-related issues that might adversely affect the employee's productivity. Workplace counselors must understand the organizational processes, its culture, practices, and challenges that can influence the well-being of an organization and its employees. 14.3 History of Workplace Counseling. The first documentary proof for employee counseling has been found from a company in USA, the Western Electric, used in Hawthorne studies in 1920s. However, the counseling service was formally introduced to organizations between 1940s and 1950s for treating occupational alcoholism. The problem of alcoholism among workers was seen as a disease, and Alcoholics Anonymous (AA) model was used as an employee assistance program (EAP) to treat with employees suffering from alcohol dependence. The encouraging outcome of this program led the counselors to work with the relatives of such employees, and gradually it was used with the employees having other life-related problems. The goal of this program was economic rather than humanitarian, as the idea was to get back the employees to work and make them productive as soon as possible. In USA, Hughes Act 1970 made it mandatory for the public services to take the responsibility of psychological health of the employees, thus boosting the development of workplace assistance and counseling. A movement from treatment to prevention approach occurred in 1980s when promotion of health took priority over medicalization of problems. According to Hawkins and Miller, another important move occurred when counseling for the organization rather than only for an individual was suggested. According to Bull, the history of workplace counseling shows that it has passed through 4 stages. 1. The disease stage, where individuals are seen as victims of an illness which they must learn to manage, for example, alcoholism. 2. The client-centered stage, a move to a broad brush approach, where the post-war development of humanistic forward/existential therapies, in conjunction with more traditional approaches, enabled employee assistance to help individuals identify and meet their own needs. 3. The employee work stage, where the workplace is acknowledged as influencing individual well-being. 4. The company as client stage, where the organization's policies and philosophy influence the individual, community and the planet. An extensive review of literature by Bull showed, however, that most of the counseling occurs at the individual level. A historical understanding of the nature of workplace counseling was useful in identifying the focus of the counseling, i.e., individual or the organization, and helped in finding the appropriate models of workplace counseling. 14.4 Models of Workplace Counseling. Hughes and Kinder have identified the following models. 1. In-house service. Organization employs a counselor or hires a counselor on a contract. 2. External provision, employee assistance program, EAP. 3. Hybrid, internal and external services. 4. Outsourced. 5. Public sector. 6. Contracting with a local counselor for small and medium enterprises. Organizations can adopt a model which best fits their needs. In an in-house model, an organization directly employs the counselor. This helps the counselor to understand the processes, dynamics, and culture of that organization. The counselor gets an access to workers at various levels, such as human resource, HR, division, workers' unions, etc. According to Pompit al., an internal workplace counseling is more efficient as it provides the counselor a greater insight into the organization that enables him/her to provide customized counseling services. However, since the counselor is also an employee of the organization, so the issue of confidentiality and impartial counseling is of concern. Cost is another concern, as having an on-site counselor is more expensive. McLeod and Henderson have delineated 2 models, external service and hybrid models. The external service model may consist of face-to-face counseling, telephonic, and web-based counseling. It can provide counseling not only for health and well-being of employees but also for legal and debt issues, family support and critical incidences occurring in an employee's life. While Pompitt al. finds external services cost-effective in terms of financial expenditure, the BAPCH finds these as less effective in terms of counseling, as according to BAPCH, the external counselors may not understand the working of an organization and so will not be able to provide appropriate counseling within the context of the organizational culture. Hybrid model, as the name suggests, is a mix of external and internal services, for example, face-to-face, internal, counseling along with telephonic, external, counseling. Internal services help the counselor to gain an understanding of the culture, processes and dynamics existing within the organization, and external services save the costs in terms of time, money, and energy. Thus, a hybrid model helps to maintain the balance between internal and external counseling services, enabling the organization to avail the best of each service. That is, an organization can have a comprehensive, flexible and confidential counseling service. An ad hoc model is also employed by small organizations for workplace counseling whenever the need for it arises. Though it is not available round the clock, however, it is helpful and cost-efficient. Carroll has enlisted the strengths and weaknesses of the internal and external models of workplace counseling, which are given below. Internal models. Strengths. Weaknesses. The counselor is in touch with the culture of the company. The counselor can be more subjective in his /her assessments. The counselor can make assessments in the light of the various organizational systems. The counseling service can be vulnerable if reorganization takes place. The counselor has access to the formal and informal structures of the organization. The counselor can get pulled very easily into identifying with either the organization or the individual. The counselor can build up greater credibility for the counseling service. The counselor can be identified by employees with management and vice versa. The counselor is able to get feedback into the system from the counseling work. The counseling provision can be isolated. The counseling work can be adapted to the organizational needs. The counselor can be used by management to do its dirty work. The counselor has flexibility to adapt to client needs. The counseling service can provide mediation. The counselor is involved in the politics of the organization. The counselor is a visible, human face. Counseling can be used by individuals against the organization. The counselor can provide multiple roles. It is more difficult to maintain confidentiality. Employees may be worried about leakage of personal information. External models. Strengths. Weaknesses. The counseling service is distinct from the politics of the organization. The counselor may not be flexible in what he can offer. It can challenge what is taken for granted within the company. The counseling service has to make a profit. It can offer training as well as counseling. It may not adapt easily to individual companies. It can offer clear confidentiality. The counselor can unwittingly get involved in the politics of the organization. It can provide a range of services. The counselor may not understand the culture of the organization. It can offer a number of counselors with different skills, backgrounds, etc. The counselor may be seen as an outsider by potential clients. The organization is not responsible for malpractice of counselors. The counselor may not be able to educate the system about the meaning and process of counseling. The counselor may not have experience of workplace counseling. The counselor may know nothing about the organization from which clients come. Carroll has also provided the following workplace counseling models. Counseling orientation models, counselors apply specific therapeutic approach to which they subscribe or have been trained. The main aim is to focus on the needs of an employee as a client and to bring a positive change. Brief therapy models. In workplace counseling, it is used where financial consideration is more important than the needs of the client. Problem-focused models. It is a time-bound approach where the focus is on the immediate presenting problem of the employee. The counselor formulates the problem, generates a solution and creates an action plan. It can be beneficial as it can provide help within a short span of time. A specific problem-solving model DASI developed by Nelson Jones, is a life skills counseling program. This 5-stage model includes D. Develop the relationship, identify and clarify problems, assess problems and redefine in skills terms, S. State working goals and plan interventions, I. Intervene to develop self-helping skills, E. End and consolidate self-helping skills. Work-orientated models focuses only on the factors that are blocking the work of an employee at his/her workplace and excludes all the other underlying problems that are not work-related. However, sometimes it is difficult to clearly differentiate between work and non-work related issues. Manager-based models. Some organizations may allocate counseling role to their managers. However, these two roles should be kept separate due to issues like confidentiality and professional expertise. Nevertheless, managers can be trained in counseling skills as it may make them more effective as managers. Welfare-based models. Welfare officers can also serve as counselors. However, the effectiveness of such counseling depends on the skill of those welfare officers to work in multiple roles. Organizational change models. Counseling is specifically focused on organizational growth, development, and transition, with an aim to be integrated with the organization. This may prove to be an asset to organizations. 14.5 Purpose of workplace counseling. Is workplace counseling employee-centric or organization-centric, i.e., does it serve the employee's purposes, both work and non-work related, or does it serve the organization's purpose by reducing absenteeism due to sickness, thereby reducing the overall cost for the organization? Fryer has suggested the following purposes of workplace counseling: to provide a safe and healthy work environment, to provide support to employees to deal with major changes in work and non-work related areas of life, to reduce stress among employees, to work for welfare of the employees, which enables the organization to attract as well as retain their valuable and efficient employees. Based on a survey on HR managers to find out the reasons for providing workplace counseling in organizations, BAPCH reported the following purposes of workplace counseling. It provides health and well-being plans for employees, 67%, support to staff for specific issues, 48%, helps in reducing the sickness leaves, 49%, and improves the productivity of the organization, 33%. In qualitative interview responses, while similar purposes were reported, further, an additional response from qualitative interview of the managers was that having workplace counseling gives the organization an image of a good employer and is seen as a good practice. Some of the problems addressed by counselor at workplace: ineffective communication between team members, unable to work in a team, non-performance by the employee, conflict between the supervisor and the subordinate employee, argument between colleagues, absenteeism where employees do not turn up or come late, presenteeism where employees turn up to work even if they are sick, mostly because of a sense of job insecurity, stress related to completing deadlines, anxiety about losing job or being transferred, poor or negative performance appraisal given by the supervisor which the employee feels is not fair, inability to manage personal and work-life demands, lack of support to maintain work-life balance, misbehavior or discriminatory behavior based on gender, caste and class, race and ethnicity, inability to keep up with the new advances in the field to keep oneself relevant for the job. 14.5.1 Benefits of workplace counseling. Workplace counseling has been found to be effective for a variety of clients and their problems. It helps in reducing stress, anxiety, and depression among employees and improving their well-being. Further, workplace counseling brings an improvement in other areas such as employees' motivation, job satisfaction, commitment and professional relationships. Yet another report by Chestnut Global Partners as well as data analysis by Attrigit al. showed that workplace counseling brought an improvement in employees' absenteeism, presenteeism, work engagement, workplace distress, and life satisfaction. According to Van der Klink, employee-centered workplace interventions were more effective in reducing occupational stress than organization-centered interventions. Further, techniques based on cognitive behavior approach were more helpful for stress reduction than other techniques like meditation, relaxation, etc. A study by British Occupational Health Research Foundation, Borough, 2005, identified cognitive behavior therapy as the most effective workplace counseling model. Overall, workplace counseling has been found to be effective for employees as it reportedly reduces stress, anxiety, depression, and increases well-being and work engagement. However, the focus can be more on prevention of mental health problems so that it is more cost-effective for the organizations. Thus, the scope of workplace counseling can include the remediation as well as the preventive aspects of counseling. 14.5.2 Setting up of workplace counseling in the organization. Carroll has proposed the following 6 stages for setting up counseling service at workplace: preparation, assessment, contract, promotion, termination of counseling services, and evaluation of workplace counseling. 1. Preparation. The organization as well as the counselor must prepare for workplace counseling in advance. An organization must begin by clearly listing its needs and expectations from workplace counseling, for which it can take the following steps: set up a team with members representing all divisions or sections of the workforce to discuss and negotiate about the requirement of workplace counseling. Hire a consultant to work on the blueprint of workplace counseling with the team and to provide information about the workplace counseling and clear doubts of the team regarding counseling. Allocation of budget and facilities, such as a room for face-to-face counseling, setting up a portal for online counseling. The expectations from counseling, such as, does the organization only want counseling for its employees, or will it be open to counseling for bringing about a change at the organizational level? Cost-benefit analysis. Finding about response and support for counseling at different levels of organization, such as senior managerial level, employees union, etc. Making a list of workplace counselors who are working as consultants in different organizations. Enlisting the expected role and functions of the workplace counselor. The counselor must have an outline of the organization's needs, purpose, expectations from counseling, the facilities it will provide, its budget, if it will put some restrictions, will it make a contract with the counselor, etc. 2. Assessment. Assessing workplace counseling. The organization must assess the counseling service in terms of its feasibility at several levels, such as size of the organization, its nature of work, employees' demographic characteristics, cost-effectiveness, support from the senior management, etc. Assessing the organization. The counselor must also assess the organization in terms of its culture, its acceptance of counseling, its expectations from the counselor, presence of value conflict, For example, organization believes in strict control while counselor believes in autonomy for workers. The contact person for counseling services, whether senior management as well as other employees support the need for workplace counseling, etc. 3. Contract. Signing a formal agreement or a contract that clearly mentions the role and responsibilities of the counselor as well as the financial and other benefits for the counselor. 4. Promotion. This refers to introducing counseling into the workplace. Advertising about the counseling service available at the workplace and encouraging the employees to avail the service by assuring them about confidentiality and that it will not be used against the employees for their appraisals for increments and promotions. 5. Termination of counseling. Renewing or ending the contract based on the satisfactory outcomes and future needs of the organization. 6. Evaluation of workplace counseling. Feedback and evaluation can be undertaken by all the three parties, i.e., organization, employees, and the counselor to understand the positive aspects as well as the limitations of counseling for future implications. 14.6 Challenges to counselors in workplace counseling. Role of organization. The role of the organization is crucial in developing a positive attitude towards workplace counseling by the employees. Further, it may also be possible that since the organization is providing the workplace counseling, it will not be held responsible for causing stress and other work-related problems due to its work culture. In other words, the organization, instead of owning responsibility for employees' stress and hardships and bringing about a change within it, the organization puts the onus of well-being on the employees' shoulders. We are doing a great service by providing workplace counseling to the employees and they should be grateful for it. The organization may be the very cause of the problems for which it is sponsoring the treatment. Hence it will be much more beneficial to deal with the root cause of the disease than to first cause the disease and then provide its treatment and wasting resources in the process. BAPCH has suggested that the way workplace counseling is introduced and promoted in the organization can affect the way it is used. The employees will not seek workplace counseling if it is perceived as showing them in bad light. For instance, if an employee avails workplace counseling, he/she is not strong, is mentally unstable or sick. Thus, instead of being seen as a beneficial service, employees will see workplace counseling as negatively evaluating them and affecting their promotions adversely. Hence, employees will avoid workplace counseling even if they genuinely require it. As Carroll points out, if the workplace counseling is not introduced and integrated with the organizational culture, it will not be positively accepted by the employees, thereby, it will remain on periphery and will not be effective. Challenges to counselors in workplace counseling. McLeod have identified the following challenges faced by counselors working in organizations: being pressured to produce results desired by the agency rather than the client, maintaining confidentiality boundaries, justifying the cost of the service, dealing with isolation, educating colleagues about the purpose and value of counseling, justifying the cost of supervision, avoiding being overwhelmed by numbers of clients, or becoming the conscience of the organization, avoiding the threat to reputation caused by failure cases, coping with the envy of colleagues who are not able to take an hour for each client interview, creating an appropriate office space and reception system. 14.6.1 Ethical dilemmas faced by counselors in workplace counseling. Several ethical dilemmas faced by counselors working in organizations have been identified by researchers, such as confidentiality, loyalty, incompatibility between the aims of organization and counseling. Lakin has enlisted the following ethical questions often faced by counselors hired by organizations: if the management pays, how can the counselor serve the interests of employees? Can the targets of the interactions, the employees, share in designing interventions? How can the counselor honestly describe what is proposed by the organization to those who are to be affected by it? What can be said regarding confidentiality? Can employees refuse to participate in counseling without penalty? Can the employee confront a manager/supervisor when the counselor and the employee have worked on this together? What safeguards are there for participants against retaliation from supervisors or aggrieved co-workers for what may take place as a result of counseling? You may recall from the previous sections that there are some inherent contradictions between organizations and counseling. While counseling is person-centric, the organizations may focus on teamwork rather than on individuals. Organizations may require passive workers while counseling encourages individuals to be active. While organizations are concerned about production, funding, and finances, the counselors are more concerned about the problems and well-being of the employees. Such clashes among the values of business-directed organization and human-oriented counselor are to be continually faced and negotiated by both the organizations and the counselors. A continual dialogue between the organization and counselor can help to narrow the gap among organization, employees, and counselor so that welfare of organization and employee could proceed together. 14.7 Future scope of workplace counseling. Demand for workplace counseling is increasing with the increasing survival culture. Though many organizations have allocated a budget for workplace counseling, however, they do not get a clear benefit in terms of financial return. For example, absenteeism may get reduced, but it is not reflected in increased production. So counselors need to show a concrete cost benefit to the organizations also to ensure the continuity of workplace counseling. Government policy may also support the counseling services in organizations either by direct funding, or giving subsidies and tax rebates. The counselors need to be trained in workplace counseling by introduction of new degree, diploma, and short-term certificate courses, as well as hands-on training opportunities for the students admitted in such courses. The focus of workplace counseling is to treat the problem after it has already occurred rather than preventing the problem from occurring in the first place. Hence, the workplace counseling should aim for prevention rather than the treatment of the problem. Organizations should be encouraged to do the good work or continue doing the good work. That is, encouraging the Thrive culture by focusing on the strengths and well-being of employees, giving them opportunities to grow along with the organization. 14.8 Workplace counseling in India. In USA, mental health issues indirectly cost the organizations about 3 times greater than their direct expenditure on absenteeism and medical issues. Indirect costs imply decreased productivity and presenteeism, the inability of employees to work to their full capacity despite being present for work. Such indirect costs in India can be higher as medical costs of treating psychological disorders are lower in India as compared to USA. Thus, mental health issues may lead to significant economic losses to companies due to reduced productivity and presenteeism, BAPCH. Farah has reported an inverse relationship between job satisfaction and mental health problems like stress, anxiety, and depression. India as a developing country is fortunate to have a large percentage of young population, less than 35 years old, and thus can boast of having a huge young workforce. However, this fortune is at the risk of being slipped away from the country's hands, as suicide is the third leading cause of death in the age bracket of 18 to 35. More than 50% of the corporate employees aged below 30 years are reported to suffer from anxiety and depression, and the graph is steadily rising. Some corporates have taken an initiative to tackle the alarming rates of stress-related disorders, like anxiety, depression by introducing stress management programs, EAPs, counseling programs, paid holidays, flexi-work, flexi-timings, etc. In this regard, as reported in a case study in 2017, Arogia World, an NGO has undertaken a project to encourage corporates to promote their employees' well-being. As a part of its Healthy Workplace program, Arogia World has initiated an award, namely, Platinum Healthy Workplace Award. This award is given to the organizations on the basis of their submitted reports regarding the costs of employee health program and the business benefits achieved due to investment in the employee health program. In 2015, a leading IT services and management consulting firm, Wipro, was identified as a healthy workplace, and in 2016 it won the Platinum Healthy Workplace Award. Wipro had initiated an emotional well-being program, named Mita, a Hindi word which means friend. It was a voluntary, peer-led program with a bottom-up approach that was successfully deployed to its large workforce consisting of 175,000 workers to deal with mental health issues. Arogia World evaluated the Mita program and reported its several key points that has made it successful and popular. The company introduced the program in the following steps. A needs assessment was done before starting the program. Analysis of health data of employees was done which showed high levels of gastrointestinal problems. Survey was conducted to assess the stress levels and the stressors for the employees. Counseling was identified as an effective intervention for stress and related issues. Mita was devised as a preventive measure to deal with the anticipated problems. Mita has both trained professionals for EAPs as well as 10 to 15 employees per year as volunteers. The employees are screened thoroughly before choosing them as volunteers. The volunteers are rigorously trained by the professionals. The volunteers are not paid for their counseling services, and counseling is over and above their work timings. Volunteers do not have to log in for the counseling sessions. Confidentiality is strictly maintained so that nobody knows who contacted whom for problem and counseling. Hotline for Mita has been made. Facilities for face-to-face counseling are also provided where either the volunteer or the employee with the problem can book the room for counseling. Volunteers may take 4 to 5 sessions per case and can refer the client to the professional EAP counselor if he/she is unable to resolve the problem. All the volunteers meet once a month with a professional counselor to discuss the reports of cases that they have handled without disclosing the identities of the clients. Anecdotal reports as well as continued use of the program has shown it to be beneficial for both volunteers and employees seeking counseling. Volunteers get a feeling of satisfaction for helping their fellow worker, while the employee feels relieved that he/she has received counseling from a trained person who also understands the organizational culture. Volunteers can deal with 40% of the cases on campus, which provides a cost benefit for the company, though Wipro has not analyzed the Mita program for its cost benefits yet. The program is strongly supported by the senior management of Wipro. Wipro conducts a detailed analysis of the program annually to identify stressors and train their volunteers accordingly to improve their counseling skills. Overall, the Mita program has found to be economical for the company, provides satisfaction to the volunteers and quality counseling for the employees, so it is a win-win situation for all. Report by Arogia World has suggested some additional steps to make the counseling program even more effective, such as, the company can use the prevalence data to set goals for program participation rates. This ratio of prevalence and participation can be used as an index to measure the effectiveness of marketing, communication, and mental health awareness strategies. Validated tools can be used to assess the effectiveness of the counseling program to calculate the net value of investment for such programs. The case study report on Wipro's workplace counseling program by Rogia World concluded that Wipro module as a workplace counseling can be successfully replicated by other corporates also. While the above case study of Wipro gives us an insight into a successfully implemented workplace counseling program in India, yet another report by Nathan draws attention to a very important yet underrated part of our country's workforce: women. According to the Wall Street Journal, corporate employees in India spend an average of 52 hours per week at work, which is much more time than their counterparts spent in 25 countries. Long work hours, job insecurity, fierce competition, lack of growth opportunities and stresses in personal life, such as drastic changes, like marriage, parenting, caring for elderly parents, has led to stress-related mental health problems in many of the young employees, especially women. Often, women are expected to work inside the home as perfectly as possible, even with a full-time job outside the home, and surprisingly, this expectation is not mediated by the family's socio-economic and educational status. Thus, whether a woman is highly educated and qualified or illiterate, unskilled worker, the expectations of the society are the same from both. Though both men and women are equally qualified and ambitious about their careers, however, most of the times, women are expected to sacrifice their careers in case of getting married to a person from different city, or due to transfer of their spouse to other state, thus leading to a conflict between their personal and professional aspirations. Such difficulties could be one of the reasons for sharp decline of women employees, highly educated as well as illiterate, in workforce in India. The Economist has reported that India could be 27% richer if it could retain its women in the workforce. Some organizations in India have recognized the women employee-related issues and have introduced policies to encourage and support the women employees, such as work from home, maternity leaves, counting the maternity leave period as a 0 year so that women do not lose points for their job appraisal. However, a more in-depth intervention is required to empower women to prevent them from leaving their careers as well as to deal with tremendous home and job-related stress. One such intervention could be a workplace counseling, especially designed for women employees, that specifically deals with their problems both at home and at workplace, decreasing their stress levels and increasing their awareness of their cognitive and emotional patterns and forging support systems for their personal and professional lives. Such a counseling program can be provided on a regular basis to women with a focus not only on treatment but on prevention of stress and stress-related disorders, like anxiety and depression, and to enhance their skills personally as well as professionally. This can go a long way in retaining the women employees as well as encouraging more women to take up careers and contribute meaningfully to the nation's wealth. 14.9 Let us sum up. In the present unit, we learned about the nature and objectives of workplace counseling. The purpose of workplace counseling and various models of it were described. The counselor faces various challenges while providing counseling at the workplace related to organization's role, confidentiality, stigma, etc. It may be noted that workplace counseling involves creation of an effective system of counseling within an already existing system, i.e., an organization with specified roles, hierarchies and boundaries. So, it is important that both organization and counselor learn about each other's roles, values, expectations, and have regular interaction. This will help create awareness and acceptance of such counseling services at the workplace, and benefit all the three crucial aspects of workplace counseling: employees, organization, and the counselor.